The tall windows of the United Earth Council chamber let in bright morning light. Outside, the rebuilt city of Geneva sparkled with new buildings. Inside, 12 humans sat at a round table, waiting. They represented all of Earth. Council leader. Jiwan checked her watch again. The alien ship had landed 3 hours ago. Security was taking longer than usual. "They're here," announced a voice over the speaker. The large metal doors opened. 3 aliens walked in. They had pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer. They stood on 2 legs like humans, but were taller and thinner. Their large amber eyes blinked, slowly as they took in the room. The one in front wore a silver robe with strange symbols. This was Ambassador Taiyong of the Risonian people. Behind him stood 2 guards, their hands never far from the devices at their sides. "Ambassador," Jiwan said, standing to greet him. "Welcome to Earth." Taiyong bowed slightly. "Thank you for seeing us, Council Leader. We come with urgent news." "Please sit," Jiwan gestured to the empty chair across from her. The guards remained, standing as Taiyong sat down. He placed a small metal disc on the table. It lit up and projected images into the air above the table. "Our worlds are dying," Taiyong said. His voice sounded tired. The translator at his neck turned his alien words into perfect English. "The Vesprid Collective attacks us without mercy." The images showed planets burning, cities turned to ash, ships that looked like giant black insects flying through space, shooting down smaller blue ships. 8 of our colonies are gone already," Taeyong continued. "Billions dead, the rest taken for purposes we do not wish to imagine." Admiral Doan leaned forward, his old military training showing in his straight back and sharp eyes. "What exactly are these Vesprid?" Taeyong touched the disc. The image changed to show insect-like creatures with 6 limbs and hard outer shells. "They are a hive mind. They think as one. They take over planets, strip them of all resources, and move on. They do not talk, they do not accept surrender." "And your defenses?" asked Owen. "Failing," Taeyong said simply. "Our remaining fleet cannot stop them. Our homeworld has perhaps 6 months before they reach it." The room fell silent. Humans had only known about aliens for 30 years. The Risonians had been among the first to make contact with Earth. They had traded technology and knowledge, helping humans advance faster than they would have on their own. "The Galactic Alliance has refused to help?" asked Jiwan, referring to the loose group of space-traveling species that the Risonians belonged to. Taeyong's shoulders dropped. "They offer words, not ships. They fear the Vesprid too much to fight. The Alliance was built for trade and peace, not war." "Then why come to us?" asked Sung-Ho, the science minister. "Earth is new to space travel. We have only a small fleet." Taeyong looked around the room, meeting each human's eyes before speaking. "Again, because you are different," he said. "The Alliance has watched your history. While we built our cultures on harmony, yours was forged in conflict. You turned your warlike past into strength. In 50 years, you have advanced what would take other centuries." He paused. "And you protect what is yours with a fierceness we have never seen." Admiral Doan nodded slowly. "You want us to fight for you?" "We want you to fight with us," Taeyong corrected. "We offer all our remaining technology, resources, and knowledge in exchange for your help. Without it, my species will not survive. The year." Jiwan stood up and walked to the window. Earth had been peaceful for decades. The old nations still existed but worked together now. First contact had changed humanity. Knowing they weren't alone in the universe had united them in ways nothing else could. But the old skills remained. The knowledge of war was still there, just sleeping. "If we help you," Jiwan said, still looking out at the peaceful city, "we do it our way. Total commitment. No holding back." "The Alliance has rules about warfare," Taeyong said carefully. "Limits on weapons, restrictions on tactics." "Rules that aren't stopping the Vesprid," Dowan pointed out. "No, they are not," Taeyong admitted. Jiwan turned back to face the room. "Ambassador, I need you to understand something about humans. When we commit to war, we commit fully. We don't fight to make a point or to slow an enemy down. We fight to win completely." We understand, Taeyong said. Your history shows this clearly. It is why we come to you when all hope seems lost. The council will need to vote, Jiwan said. Please wait outside. Taeyong and his guards left the room. As soon as the doors closed, the arguments began. We can't just ignore this, said Minseo, the youngest council member. Those images, those are entire worlds burning. But a war against an alien force? Asked Jaehyuk, the economic minister. We've never fought in space before. We've been preparing, Doan said firmly. Ever since first contact, we've been adapting our military thinking to space. We have the designs, we have the industry, we just needed a reason. And a testing ground, added Hyunwoo, the diplomatic minister, his voice dark. Jiwan held up her hand for silence. This isn't about testing weapons, this is about doing what's right. The Risonians helped us when we were new to the stars. They shared technology that would have taken us centuries to discover. And if we help them, Dowan added, we gain even more advanced technology and a grateful ally. If we refuse, Sung-ho said quietly, and the Vesprid finish with the Risonians, who do you think they'll come for next? That thought settled over the room like a heavy blanket. We vote, Jiwan said finally. All in favor of helping the Risonians? 12 hands went up. There was no need to count the opposed. Jiwan called Taeyong back into the room. The alien's large eyes seemed to already know the answer. Ambassador Taeyong, Jiwan said formally. Earth stands with the Risonian people. We will help you fight. The Vesprid Collective. For the first time, Taeyong's formal manner broke. His shoulders shook slightly. Thank you, he said, his translator struggling to convey the emotion in his voice. Don't thank us yet, Admiral Dowan said grimly. Send us everything you have on these Vesprid, their ships, their tactics, their biology. Everything. Taeyong nodded. Already being transmitted to your military systems. Jiwan extended her hand, and after a moment, Taeyong reached out his 3-fingered hand to shake it. I must warn you, Taeyong said. The Vesprid are unlike any enemy you have faced. They do not feel fear. They do not retreat. Admiral Dowan stood up, his face set in hard lines. Neither do we, Ambassador. Not when it matters. As Taeyong left the chamber, Jiwan turned to Dowan. How quickly can we prepare? We've had plans in place since we first learned about hostile aliens, Dowan replied. With Risonian help, we can have the first ships ready in 2 months. Make it 1, Jiwan ordered. And Admiral, no holding back. Full production. Every factory, every shipyard. Total war, Dowan nodded. Total war, Jiwan agreed. By nightfall, the news had spread across Earth. Production plants were switching from civilian goods to military equipment. Retired soldiers were being called back to service. Engineers were reviewing the newly shared Risonian technology. Humanity was going to war among the stars, and they would do what humans had always done when protecting those they cared about. They would fight with everything they had. From the orbiting Risonian ship, Taeyong watched the lights of Earth's cities twinkling below. Already he could see the patterns changing as factories switched to night shifts. His second-in-command, Jinwoo, stood beside him. Do you think they can really help us? Jinwoo asked quietly. Taeyong kept his eyes on the planet below. They must, or we all die. 2 months passed quickly. The shipyards around Earth and the Moon worked day and night. What had once built cruise ships to Mars now built warships for deep space. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderchild, the largest human warship ever built. Through the large front window he watched as hundreds of ships gathered. Some were small and fast. Others were big and heavy with weapons. All of them were new, built with a mix of human ideas and Risonian technology. Status report, Minho said, his voice calm but firm. Lieutenant Suho looked up from his screen. All systems ready, Captain. The fleet is at 97% completion. The last ships will join us tomorrow. Minho nodded. He was young for a captain, only 38, but he had spent 20 years in space. First on science ships, then on the small defense vessels Earth built after meeting aliens. Now he commanded a true warship, with a crew of 600 humans and 50 Risonian advisors. "What do the Risonians think of our changes?" Minho asked. Science Officer Ji-young walked over with a tablet in her hand. She was the ship's expert on alien biology and technology. "They're worried," she said. "We've changed almost everything about their ship designs." That was true. When the Risonians shared their ship plans, human engineers had taken one look and started making changes. Risonian ships were built for defense and long-range fighting. Human ships were now built for attack and close fighting. "Show me the latest." "Battle simulations," Minho ordered. A large screen lit up showing computer models of space battles. Red ships represented the Vesprid. Blue ships were the Risonian design. Green ships showed the new human-Risonian hybrid designs. "In standard long-range battles, we still lose," Ji-young explained, pointing to the screen where most of the green and blue ships were destroyed. "The Vesprid have better shields and more ships." "And the new approach?" Minho asked. Ji-young tapped the screen. A new simulation started. This time, the green ships did something different. Instead of staying far away, they jumped right into the middle of the red ships. "Close-range attack works much better," Ji-young said. "The Vesprid never face enemies who get this close. Their weapons are designed for distance fighting." "And our special teams?" Minho asked. "Ready, sir," said Security Chief Junho, joining the conversation. 20,000 soldiers trained for boarding actions. The Risonians think we're crazy, but the simulations show it could work. Boarding actions. The idea was old on Earth, going back to ancient naval battles where sailors would jump from their ship onto an enemy ship and fight hand-to-hand. No one in space had tried this before. Space battles always happened at great distances with ships firing at each other from thousands of kilometers away, but humans were bringing old ideas to space. Get close, get personal, get inside the enemy ships. The Risonians will see that. "We know what we're doing," Minho said. "Has anyone told them about the Trojan horse yet?" Ji-young smiled. "I gave them a history lesson yesterday. They were disturbed." On another ship, the diplomatic vessel Hope, Ambassador Hyunwoo was meeting with aliens from the Galactic Alliance. They had arrived to observe the human fleet, but everyone knew they were really there to spy. "Your modifications break 16 alliance treaties on warfare," said the Centaurian diplomat. He looked almost human except for his golden skin and 4 arms. "Treaties that did nothing to stop the Vesprid," Hyunwoo replied calmly. "How many Risonian worlds have fallen while the Alliance talked?" "The Alliance believes in careful, measured responses," the Centaurian said. "And how is that working out?" Hyunwoo asked. "The Vesprid have taken 8 planets and killed billions. Sometimes, diplomat, evil must be met with force. Your species was kept isolated for so long because the Alliance feared your violent tendencies," the Centaurian said. "Now we see we were right to worry." Hyunwoo stood up, his patience gone. "You kept us isolated because you feared us. Now the Risonians need exactly what you feared, a species willing to fight. If you want to help, get out of our way. If not, go back to your comfortable worlds and hope the Vesprid never reach them." Back on the Thunderchild, Minho called a meeting of all department heads. They gathered in the ship's large conference room. "Tomorrow we leave for Risonian space," Minho said. "The journey will take 3 weeks at our best speed. That gives us time for final preparations." He looked around the table. These men and women were the best Earth had to offer. Engineers, pilots, doctors, soldiers, all volunteers. "The Vesprid don't know we exist," Minho continued. "They've never fought humans before. They have no idea what's coming." "What if our new tactics don't work?" asked Dr. Soman, the chief medical officer. "Then we try something else," Minho said firmly. "Humans are good at adapting. If plan A fails, we go to plan B. If that fails, we have the rest of the alphabet." Some people laughed at that. It broke the tension in the room. "The Risonians have fought defensively for too long," Minho said. "Always retreating, always giving up ground. That ends now. We take the fight to the enemy." On the last day before departure, a special visitor came to the fleet. Council leader Ji-won herself traveled to the Thunderchild. The crew stood at attention as she walked onto the bridge. "At ease," she said. "I won't keep you long. You have a journey to begin." She looked around at the advanced bridge with its mix of human and alien technology. 2 months ago, the Rissonians came to us for help, she said. They expected us to send a few ships, maybe some advisors. Instead, we are sending our finest men and women, 300 ships and the most advanced weapons Earth has ever built. She paused, making eye contact with each officer on the bridge. You carry with you the hopes of 2 species, she continued. The Rissonians fighting for survival, and humanity, taking our first steps as defenders in this galaxy. Show them what humans can do when we put our minds to something. Minho stepped forward. We won't let you down, Council Leader. Jiwan nodded. I know you won't, Captain. She handed him a small metal disc. This contains a message from the children of Earth. Open it when you reach Rissonian space. The next morning, the fleet departed. 300 ships of various sizes formed up beyond the moon. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Minho gave the order. All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump. One by one, the ships disappeared in flashes of light, heading for distant stars. On the main screen, Minho watched as Earth became smaller and smaller, then vanished as the Thunderchild entered hyperspace. Course set for the Rissonian defense line, reported Navigator Jiho. Estimated arrival in 22 days. Minho nodded. Send. A message to all ships. The journey begins. Train hard, rest well. We are the first human fleet to fight among the stars. Let's make sure the galaxy remembers us. In hyperspace, the ships traveled faster than light, their human and Rissonian crews preparing for battle. They studied Vesprid tactics, practiced new fighting methods, and worked together to overcome cultural differences. The Rissonians were learning that humans approached war differently. Humans didn't just fight with weapons and ships. They fought with cunning, with surprise, with tricks and traps. Most importantly, they fought with absolute determination to win. As the fleet traveled, news reached them that another Rissonian world had fallen to the Vesprid. The humans didn't talk much that day. Instead, they worked harder, trained longer, prepared more carefully. The Vesprid were still advancing, still undefeated, but they had never faced humans before. The planet Nerides hung in space like a blue-green jewel. Once it had been home to millions of Rissonians. Now half the planet burned. Black Vesprid ships swarmed around it, attacking the last Rissonian defenses. In the darkness of space, far from the battle, the human fleet emerged from hyperspace. 300 ships appeared in perfect formation. On the bridge of the Thunderchild, Captain Minho watched the distant battle on the main screen. Readings on Vesprid forces? He asked. Tactical Officer Junho studied his screen. 427 ships detected. They're focused on breaking through the last Rissonian defenses. They don't see us yet, said Lieutenant Suho. We're outside their sensor range. Minho nodded. Good. Send the signal to the Rissonian command. Tell them to hold on. Help is here. Communications Officer Yuna sent the message. A moment later, a tired Rissonian face appeared on the screen. It was Admiral Tae-Soo, commander of the last Rissonian defense fleet. Human vessel, he said. We are grateful for your arrival, but I fear you are too late. We cannot hold much longer. We're not here to help you hold, Admiral, Minho replied. We're here to push them back. Prepare your forces. We attack in 30 minutes. The Rissonian looked confused. Attack? But they outnumber us greatly. Numbers aren't everything, Minho said. Be ready to support our advance. As the screen went dark, Suho turned to Minho. Sir, he's right. They do outnumber us. Yes, Minho agreed. But they've never faced humans before. We fight differently. He pressed a button on his chair. All hands, battle stations, boarding teams, prepare for deployment. Throughout the ship, men and women rushed to their positions. In the large bay at the center of the ship, Major Yunju checked her armor one last time. Around her, 500 soldiers did the same. They wore heavy suits designed for both space and ship-to-ship combat. Remember your training, Yunju told her team. The Vesprid fight as a group. They're not used to dealing with individual fighters. Use that against them. On the bridge, Minho gave the order that would begin humanity's first interstellar war. All ships, attack pattern Alpha. Jump directly into their formation. Target the biggest ships first. The human fleet vanished from their position and reappeared, right in the middle of the Vesprid forces. It was a dangerous move that no other species would try. Appearing so close to enemy ships risked collisions and immediate fire, but it also meant the humans could attack before the Vesprid could organize. "Fire all weapons," Minho ordered calmly. The space around Nereides lit up as 300 human ships opened fire at close range. Vesprid ships, suddenly surrounded by enemies, turned to defend themselves. Their neat attack formation broke apart as they tried to deal with enemies that were too close for their usual tactics. "First wave is successful," reported Junho. "Vesprid ships are confused by our position." "They expected us to keep our distance," Minho said, "like everyone else does. Deploy boarding tubes on my mark." The Thunderchild shook as Vesprid weapons hit its shields. The ship's AI calculated the damage and adjusted power. "Shields at 82%, reported Engineering Officer Deho. "We can take more hits." "Good," said Minho. "Because we're going to. Move us closer to that command ship." He pointed to a large Vesprid vessel on the screen. "Boarding teams, stand by." The Thunderchild turned and accelerated toward a Vesprid ship 3 times its size. Other human ships were doing the same thing across the battlefield, each targeting a Vesprid vessel. "In range," Junho said. "Boarding tubes ready." "Deploy," ordered Minho. From the side of the Thunderchild, long metal tubes shot out and attached to the hull of the Vesprid ship. Inside the tubes, Major Yunju and her team moved quickly toward the enemy ship. "Cutting through the hull now," Yunju reported over the radio. "We'll be inside in 30 seconds. This was the part of the plan that the Risonians had found hardest to believe. No species in the galaxy deliberately boarded enemy ships. Space battles were fought with ships and weapons, not hand-to-hand combat. But humans knew that sometimes the best way to defeat an enemy was to get close enough to see the whites of their eyes, or in this case, the blacks of the Vesprid's compound eyes. "We're in," Yunju reported. Moving toward the central node. From the Risonian command ship, Admiral Tesu watched in amazement as human ships physically attached themselves to Vesprid vessels. "What are they doing?" he asked his second-in-command, Commander Gia. "They call it boarding," Gia replied. "Their soldiers are actually entering the Vesprid ships." That's suicide," Tesu said. But as he watched, he saw something incredible. The Vesprid ships that had been boarded were stopping their attacks. Some were drifting off course. Others were firing wildly at nothing. Inside the Vesprid command ship, Major Yunju led her team through narrow corridors. The ship smelled strange, like rotting leaves and chemicals. The walls were curved and covered in a dark, shiny material. "Contact," said Sergeant Minyuk, as 5 Vesprid warriors appeared ahead of them. The Vesprid were 2 meters tall with 6 limbs and hard outer shells. They moved fast, working together perfectly, like insects from a single hive. "Fire," ordered Yunju. The human soldiers fired their weapons. The Vesprid fell, but more came from side passages. Yunju's team kept moving, fighting their way deeper into the ship. "The central node should be just ahead," Yunju said, checking the map on her wrist computer. "Remember, we're not here to kill them all. Just cut off their command center." The team reached a large door. Beyond it was the ship's control center. Yunju placed explosive charges on the door. "Breach in 3, 2, 1. The door blew open. The humans rushed in, throwing stun grenades. Inside, dozens of Vesprid workers surrounded a central pillar that glowed with strange light. This was the node that connected this ship to the Vesprid hive mind. "Secure the room," Yunju ordered. Her team moved quickly, subduing the Vesprid workers who tried to protect the node. Yunju approached the pillar and placed a small device on it. The device lit up and began to send out a signal that disrupted the hive mind connection. "Node secured," she reported. "Disconnecting this ship from the hive mind now." Across the battlefield, the same scene played out on 17 other Vesprid ships. Human boarding teams fought their way to central nodes and disconnected them from the hive mind. Without guidance, the Vesprid on those ships became confused and disorganized. 8 hours after the battle began, the remaining Vesprid ships pulled back. For the first time in 50 years, the Vesprid collective had retreated from a battle. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Minho received the reports with grim satisfaction. Casualties? He asked. 42 dead, 117 wounded, Suho reported. We lost 12 ships. Minho nodded slowly. Too many, but far fewer than expected. And the Vesprid? 38 ships destroyed, 17 captured intact. The rest have retreated. Admiral Teisu's face appeared on the main screen. The Risonian looked stunned. Captain Minho, he said. I don't know what to say. Your tactics were unlike anything I've seen in my 120 years of service. This is just the beginning, Admiral, Minho replied. The Vesprid now know they can be hurt. That changes everything. Later that day, in his private quarters, Minho opened the small disc that Council Leader Jiwan had given him. A hologram appeared, thousands of children from Earth singing a song of hope and courage. The message was simple. Come home safe. We're counting on you. Minho watched it twice, then sent a message back to Earth. Phase 1, complete. The Vesprid can bleed. We're going after them. The human fleet spent 3 days repairing ships and treating the wounded. Then they moved on, pushing deeper into Vesprid territory. The hunt had begun, and humanity was on the march. 6 weeks passed. The combined human and Risonian fleet pushed deeper into Vesprid space. What had started as a mission to defend Risonian worlds had changed. Now they were taking the fight to the enemy's home. On Earth, Council Leader Jiwan stood in the war room. A large holographic map showed the progress of the fleet. 60% of the occupied Risonian worlds had been freed. Thousands of Risonians had been rescued from Vesprid processing centers. The Vesprid are falling back on all fronts, reported General Hana, pointing to the map. Our ships are faster than we expected. And the losses? Asked Jiwan. Fewer than we feared, said Hana. The boarding strategy works. We take their ships instead of destroying them. Risonian High Commander Jinwoo, who had come to Earth to help coordinate the war, shook his head in wonder. Your people fight differently than any in the galaxy, he said. The Alliance has always tried to contain aggressive species, to push them back just enough to make them stop. You push until they cannot fight anymore. It's called total war, Jiwan explained. When humans commit to a fight, we don't look for a draw or a small win. We seek complete victory. And what happens to the Vesprid when you win? Asked Jinwoo. That depends on them, Jiwan replied. On the front lines, the Thunderchild led a special group of ships toward a newly discovered target. Intelligence from captured Vesprid ships had revealed something important. The Vesprid hive mind needed regular contact with the Queen Node on their homeworld. Without this contact, the Vesprid became less coordinated, less dangerous. Captain Minho stood on the Yao bridge looking at the image of a dark green planet on the main screen. That's it, he said. The Vesprid homeworld, Thorn Prime. Sensors show heavy defenses, reported Junho. At least 600 ships and many orbital platforms. Minho nodded. They're protecting something important. The plan was risky, but simple. A small, fast group of ships would slip past the Vesprid defenses. Special teams would land on the planet and target the Queen Node. Not to destroy it, but to change it. All ships prepare for the final approach, Minho ordered. Remember the mission. We're not here for revenge. We're here to end the war. In the ship's science lab, Dr. Ji-young worked with a team of human and Risonian scientists. They had created a biological agent that would affect the Vesprid hive mind. It would not kill them, but it would change how they connected to each other. The testing is complete, Ji-young told Minho. The agent works as planned. It will separate individual Vesprid from the hive mind without harming them. Any side effects? Minho asked. They'll be confused at first, Ji-young said. They've never been truly individual before, but our tests on captured Vesprid show they can adapt. They might even be better off in the long run. The attack began the next day, While the main fleet engaged the Vesprid defenses, a small group of fast ships slipped through gaps in their line. The Thunderchild led 5 other ships toward the planet's surface. Heavy fire from ground defenses, warned Suho as the ships entered the atmosphere. Evasive maneuvers, Minho ordered. Get us as close to the target as possible. The ships dodged energy beams and missiles from the ground. 2 of the 6 ships were hit and crashed. The others, including the Thunderchild, landed 3 kilometers from the massive structure that housed the Queen node. Colonel Do-hyun led the ground forces. 1,000 human soldiers, supported by Risonian tech experts, moved toward the structure. They faced heavy resistance from Vesprid defenders who fought desperately to protect their queen. Push forward, Do-hyun ordered as his forces engaged the Vesprid. We need to reach the central chamber. The battle lasted for hours. The humans fought their way through the alien structure, room by room, corridor by corridor. They used tactics the Vesprid had never seen before, splitting into small teams that confused the hive mind coordination of the defenders. Finally, they reached the central chamber. Inside was the largest Vesprid they had seen, the Queen. She was surrounded by hundreds of worker Vesprid who were willing to die to protect her. Hold position, Do-hyun ordered. We don't need to reach her physically. The human forces set up special devices around the chamber. These devices would release the biological agent into the air circulation system. From there, it would spread throughout the Vesprid population on the planet, and eventually, to all Vesprid everywhere. Devices in position, reported Sergeant Yuri. Ready on your command. Do-hyun looked at the Queen one more time. She was not evil, he knew. The Vesprid were simply following their nature, expand, consume, repeat. But that nature threatened all other life in the galaxy. Activate the Yao. Devices, he ordered. The air in the chamber shifted slightly as the invisible agent was released. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the Vesprid workers began to move differently. They stopped their perfect coordination. Some looked around as if confused. Others seemed to notice their surroundings for the first time. The Queen made a high-pitched sound that humans couldn't hear. She was trying to reconnect to her children, but the connection was breaking. It's working, said Ji-young over the radio. The hive mind is separating. Across the planet, the same thing was happening. Vesprid ships in orbit suddenly lost coordination. Ground forces stopped their attacks. For the first time in their history, each Vesprid was thinking as an individual, not as part of a greater whole. 3 days later, Ambassador Hyunwoo led a diplomatic team to meet with the Vesprid leadership. The Queen was still alive, but she was now just one voice among many, not the controlling mind of an entire species. Your collective now faces a choice, Hyunwoo told the Vesprid regent, a newly created position for a species that had never needed leaders before. Continue fighting as individuals, or accept terms that allow your people to live in peace. The regent, still adjusting to individual thought, clicked his mandibles together before speaking through a translator. I find it difficult to think alone, he said, but I see now what we were, what we did. It was wrong. The surrender was signed the next day. The Vesprid agreed to return all captured planets and prisoners. They would be monitored for 50 years to ensure they did not try to rebuild their hive mind. When the Galactic Alliance representatives arrived, they found humans already setting up systems to help the Vesprid adjust to their new existence. You've completely changed, an entire species accused the Centaurian diplomat. This goes against all Alliance principles of non-interference. Admiral Dowan, who was overseeing the transition, didn't deny it. We did what was necessary. The Vesprid live. The Risonians live. The threat is gone. 1 month later, the human fleet began its journey home. They left behind teams to help rebuild Risonian worlds and to guide the Vesprid through their difficult transition to individual thinking. On Earth, crowds gathered to welcome the returning ships. The Thunderchild was first to land at the new spaceport outside Geneva. Captain Minho led his crew down the ramp to where Council Leader Ji-won waited. Captain, she said, shaking his hand. Earth thanks you and your crew for your service. We did what was needed, Minho replied simply. That evening, a formal ceremony was held. Representatives from 20 alien species attended, including Ambassador Taeyong of the Risonians. When we came to Earth 6 months ago, Taeyong said in his speech, we hoped for a few ships, perhaps some weapons. Instead, humanity gave us everything, their technology, their soldiers, and most importantly, their determination. He turned to face the human leaders. You answered our plea with total war, not because you love fighting, but because you understood that sometimes only complete commitment can bring true peace. In the diplomatic quarter of Geneva, a new monument was built. It showed a human hand and a Risonian hand clasped together. Below it were words that would define humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. They came when others watched. They fought when others retreated. They finished what they started. Humanity, the galaxy's last resort and its surest defense. And across the stars, on 100 worlds, species who had watched the war from a distance began to rethink their views on the newcomers to galactic society. Humans were not just another species. They were something new, a people who would fight with everything they had to protect those who asked for help. The galaxy would never be the same again. The end.